Ethan had always imagined space as quiet and lonely, but nothing could have prepared him for Valera Prime. The sky shimmered with colors he had no names for, a mix of deep violet and green streaks that danced like the aurora back on Earth. Strange plants, glowing faintly in the darkness, stretched tall above him, swaying as if breathing. Floating rock formations hovered in the distance, defying gravity, while rivers of crystal-clear water glimmered in the soft alien light. Every day he walked through this world, notebook in hand, studying its life forms, its atmosphere, its secrets. Yet, for all its beauty, there was a feeling of emptiness, a sense that he was alone in a place that had never seen a human before. The research outpost he lived in was built into one of the floating cliffs, sleek and metallic with smooth walls that reflected the alien landscape outside. Inside, the lab hummed with activity from the machines Ethan had brought along, an array of sensors, computers, and scanners designed to study the planet's energy fields and native life. Yet despite the equipment, the lab felt cold and empty. Humans were not meant to be alone in a place like this, Ethan thought. He was jotting notes about the Lithari plant species, carefully recording the bioluminescence patterns, when the sliding door at the far end of the lab hissed open. He looked up instinctively, expecting perhaps another human crew member, but the hallway was empty. Then, stepping inside, she appeared. The Lithari female moved with a confidence that immediately drew Ethan's attention. Her long, lean body was wrapped in a ceremonial cloak made of shimmering fibers that caught the light, creating small rainbow reflections on the walls. Her face was angular but elegant, with eyes that glowed faintly, green like the forest outside. She walked without hesitation, every step precise, commanding yet graceful. She looked at Ethan with curiosity, and he felt strangely that she was studying him as much as he had studied the plants and animals of Valera Prime. Ethan stood frozen, unsure how to react. Humans were supposed to be cautious with alien life, but something in her presence made fear impossible. She reached the center of the lab and paused. Slowly, deliberately, she removed her ceremonial cloak, letting it fall to the ground. Her attire underneath was a simple, elegant uniform of her species, unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. It radiated authority, yes, but also a strange softness, as though it had been designed to make others feel safe rather than threatened. Then she approached him. Ethan instinctively took a step back, his mind racing. And then, unexpectedly, she leaned forward and kissed him. Not lightly, but with intention, a kiss on the cheek, warm and firm. Ethan's heart pounded. He did not understand what it meant. Was it a greeting? A challenge? An insult? But the expression in her glowing eyes told him it was none of those. There was trust there, and maybe even respect. Finally, she stepped back and spoke in the Lithari language. The sounds were melodic, flowing like water, yet precise. Ethan shook his head, unable to comprehend. She noticed and tilted her head slightly, as if amused. Then, to his surprise, she produced a small device from her uniform and placed it on the table in front of him. Lights blinked and holographic images flickered into life above the machine. Ethan leaned closer, eyes widening. The images depicted the Lithari civilization, floating cities, energy fields, massive structures that defied gravity. Then the hologram shifted, showing a catastrophic event. A massive meteor approaching their planet and the ensuing destruction it would bring. Ethan's stomach dropped. The Lithari watched him carefully, her glowing eyes locked onto his. Then, using gestures that seemed almost like dance movements, she conveyed the message: "We need your help. Your species. You are different. You may understand what we cannot." Ethan took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. Humans had always been praised for creativity and problem-solving, but this was beyond anything he had ever imagined. He was just one man, far from Earth, and now the survival of an entire species rested in part on his shoulders. For the next several hours, Ethan worked alongside her. She showed him the inner workings of the device she had brought, which seemed to be some kind of energy stabilizer, capable of redirecting cosmic forces. Her explanations were intricate, filled with scientific principles that were beyond any human technology he knew. Yet the methodical way she demonstrated each function allowed him to follow. He began to realize that she trusted him completely. Night fell on Valera Prime, though night was not like Earth's night. The bioluminescent flora lit the forests in hues of soft blue and green. Ethan and the Lithari stood side by side near one of the floating cliffs, studying data projected from the device. He noticed how her eyes glowed softly in the dim light, and how every movement she made was deliberate yet natural. She did not speak, yet he could sense her assessment of him, measuring his intelligence, his patience, his reactions. Suddenly, alarms blared from the lab. Ethan rushed back inside, heart racing. The device was reacting to an energy surge from deep within the planet. The Lithari moved quickly, her hands flying over controls, her focus intense. Ethan mirrored her movements, applying his human logic to stabilize the readings. For several tense minutes they worked together, human intuition blending with Lithari precision. Then finally, the surge subsided. The Lithari turned to him, and this time she touched his arm gently, her glowing fingers warm against his skin. She tilted her head and repeated the gesture from before, a kiss on the cheek, but longer, almost ceremonial. Ethan's mind raced. He realized that in her culture this was a mark of trust, an acknowledgement that he was now an ally in a mission that could determine the fate of her world. As the night wore on, Ethan felt a strange bond forming. He began to understand the Lithari differently, not just as a species, but as a civilization that saw humans as something rare, something valuable. She did not need to say it. He could feel it. Humans had qualities that the galaxy rarely acknowledged: courage, creativity, empathy, and an unexpected resilience. These traits, she seemed to believe, were essential to solving problems that no other species could. Ethan spent hours studying with her, learning her ways of analyzing the planet's energy fields, understanding the flow of cosmic forces, and testing hypotheses that could prevent disaster. Every time he solved a problem, every time he made a connection the Lithari had not considered, he could see a spark of approval in her glowing eyes. For all her confidence and skill, she was impressed by the simplicity and adaptability of his human approach. By the time dawn arrived, a strange peace settled over the lab. Outside, the floating cliffs glowed in the soft light. Rivers reflected the alien sky, and the forest hummed with life. Ethan sat back in his chair, exhausted but exhilarated. The Lithari stood beside him, silent, observing him with what felt like deep contemplation. He knew that this was only the beginning, that the real challenges lay ahead, but for the first time he felt seen. Not just as a human, not just as a scientist, but as a being capable of making a difference in the galaxy. Finally, she stepped forward once more. Her lips brushed his forehead, a gentle, fleeting contact that carried immense meaning. Ethan understood. She had entrusted him with knowledge, with responsibility, and with the future of her people. And in that moment he realized something extraordinary. Humans, despite their limitations, were remarkable. Even alone, even far from home, their courage and ingenuity could shine brighter than the stars themselves. Ethan looked at her, and though they did not speak the same language, a silent understanding passed between them. She had walked in confident, bold, unafraid, and through her actions she had shown him that trust and respect could cross even the vastest of differences. Humans might be young in the galactic timeline, but they were capable of deeds that no other species could accomplish. And somewhere deep inside, Ethan knew that this was just the start. The real adventure, one that would test his mind, his courage, and his humanity, was yet to come. But for now, on this glowing alien world, he felt alive in a way he never had on Earth, knowing that he was part of something greater, something that could change the fate of a civilization, something that showed that humans could be extraordinary in ways the galaxy had not yet seen. Alex stepped off the shuttle onto the space station's landing deck, carrying a single duffel bag that contained his personal belongings and a few small tools. He had never lived anywhere other than Earth, but the chance to work on this neutral station, known for being a hub of interstellar trade and research, was too good to pass up. He had always been fascinated by technology, by how humans could push boundaries even in a universe dominated by species far older and more advanced than them. The station was huge, with gleaming metal corridors, bright panels of information, and a constant hum of machinery. Different species moved through the hallways, some humanoid, some with shapes and forms Alex had never imagined. It was intimidating but exciting. He had been assigned a room in a shared apartment in one of the residential sectors. His roommate, he was told, was Lyra, a young officer of a militaristic alien species known for precision, discipline, and strict adherence to rules. Alex had seen her picture in the station records. Lyra was tall, with a lean frame and a sharp gaze that seemed to look right through people. Her species had translucent skin in certain areas that glowed faintly when they were excited or stressed. From her expression in the picture, Alex could tell she was serious and unyielding, someone who valued order above all else. He hoped she would not mind a human as a roommate. When he entered the apartment, he saw a small but tidy space. There were 2 rooms, a shared living area, and a compact kitchen. One of the rooms was clearly Lyra's, neat, organized, and bare except for a few essential items. Alex's room, on the other hand, was already cluttered. His duffel bag sat in the corner, unopened. But in the center of the room was something that would make any curious person stop and stare: his equipment. It was a compact energy manipulator, roughly the size of a large briefcase, covered in wires, panels, and softly glowing components. Alex had spent months building it in secret. He knew the station had rules against unsanctioned experimental devices, but the potential of this machine was too great. It could harness energy fluctuations and stabilize them, a technology that could improve interstellar travel, or even provide a clean power source for entire planets. The risks were high, but so were the rewards. He unpacked his tools and began setting up the device on his small workbench. The soft hum of the machine filled the room. It was mesmerizing, the way the lights pulsed and the energy arcs danced across the coils. Alex had always loved this part of creation, the moment when something that existed only in his mind became real. He was so focused on connecting a final circuit that he didn't notice the door opening. "Alex?" A voice called. He jumped. The voice was soft but carried authority. Lyra stood in the doorway, her glowing eyes wide as they scanned the room. "Oh, Lyra, you're back early," Alex said quickly, trying to hide the wires and panels as if she might disapprove. "I smelled it," she said, stepping inside. "What is that? Equipment?" Her tone was more curious than angry, but there was a sharp edge to it. She moved closer, her eyes scanning the device with a mixture of shock and fascination. Alex hesitated. "It's a personal project. Experimental. I'm trying to develop a device that can manipulate energy flows safely. It's not dangerous if handled carefully." Lyra's gaze narrowed. "You call this safe?" she said, tilting her head. She reached out with a hand and touched one of the glowing coils. Alex's heart skipped a beat. "Careful," he shouted, moving toward her. She pulled back instantly, her glowing skin dimming slightly as if she had realized the danger. "You humans," she said, a hint of incredulity in her voice. "You think you can create these things without consequences." Alex sighed, realizing he could not simply brush this off. "I know it's dangerous. That's why I haven't shown it to anyone. I've tested it extensively in controlled environments. I'm careful." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Controlled? In your room? You could destroy half the sector with this if something went wrong." Alex shrugged, trying to appear nonchalant, though he felt a bead of sweat trickle down his temple. "I'm taking precautions. I've calculated energy output, containment fields, and failsafes. I promise." Her eyes softened slightly, though her expression remained serious. "This is impressive. I didn't think humans were capable of creating something like this without alien technology. You're clever, perhaps recklessly clever." Alex chuckled nervously. "I guess that's one way to put it. But it works. I've run smaller tests already. This device, it's going to change things." Lyra's curiosity got the better of her. She stepped closer again, examining the device. "Change things? For humans or for everyone?" "For everyone," Alex said, a spark of excitement in his eyes. "If I can make this stable, it can help any species that needs energy. It's not just about humans surviving. It's about all of us pushing the boundaries together." Lyra was silent for a moment, her eyes scanning the glowing arcs of energy. Alex could see her mind working, trying to comprehend the scope of what he was saying. Finally she spoke. "You're bold. And dangerous. I cannot allow you to continue without supervision. If your calculations are wrong," she shook her head, "you could destroy much more than just your room." Alex nodded quickly. "I understand. I'll let you supervise if you want. I need to keep working." Lyra hesitated, then nodded. "Fine, I will supervise. But if you make even one mistake, I will shut it down immediately. And Alex, you must understand. Curiosity is one thing, but recklessness will not be tolerated." "Agreed," Alex said. "But you have to admit, it's exciting, isn't it? Seeing what humans can do?" She glanced at him, a faint smile touching her lips, though it did not reach her eyes. "Exciting? Yes. Terrifying. Also yes. Over the next few hours, Alex and Lyra worked together. Alex explained the components, the energy flow, and the safety protocols. Lyra asked questions that were both challenging and insightful. She suggested improvements, corrections, and alternatives that Alex had never considered. Slowly, the tension between them shifted. What had started as fear and skepticism turned into mutual respect. Alex realized that despite her strict demeanor, Lyra was genuinely curious and intelligent. And Lyra began to see that humans were capable of ingenuity, far beyond what her species usually allowed themselves to believe. At one point, a small miscalculation caused the device to emit a sharp pulse of energy. Alex yelped, diving to cut the power. Lyra reacted instantly, moving to stabilize the energy field with a portable containment module she had brought from her personal quarters. Together, they prevented a minor catastrophe. After catching their breath, Alex looked at her and said, "See? That's the thing about humans. We make mistakes, but we find a way to fix them. Even when it seems impossible." Lyra's eyes met his. There was a long pause, a silence charged with understanding. "I have never seen a human take such risks and yet be this calculated. You are remarkable," she said quietly. Alex smiled, feeling a warmth he had not expected. "Thanks, and you're amazing yourself. For trusting me with your supervision." Lyra shook her head. "I am not trusting you yet. I am simply observing, but I admit you have my attention." The night passed with them working side by side. Alex adjusted circuits. Lyra monitored energy flow. They spoke little, but the silence was comfortable, filled with the soft hum of the equipment and the occasional sparks of energy. Outside, the station continued its busy routines, unaware of the small but significant experiment happening in that room. By the time dawn approached, they had stabilized the device enough to run a controlled test. Alex activated it, and the energy arcs danced across the coils with a steady rhythm. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly, reflecting awe and disbelief. "It works. Just as you said," she murmured. Alex leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. "Yes, it works. And this is just the beginning." Lyra nodded slowly, her expression unreadable. "You humans. You are unpredictable, but perhaps that is why you succeed where others fail. I will continue supervising, but Alex, you must understand, this device, this invention, it has implications far beyond this room. You may have just caught the attention of people who do not wish to see humans advance." Alex's smile faded slightly. "I know, but I'm ready for that. Humans survive, we adapt, and sometimes we surprise everyone." Lyra studied him for a long moment, then said, "We will see, human. We will see." The story ended with them both staring at the device, a quiet bond forming between the human and the alien, one built on respect, curiosity, and the unspoken acknowledgement that this was more than just an experiment. It was a sign that humanity might finally be stepping into a larger role in a universe that had long underestimated them. And somewhere deep in the station, other eyes may have already begun to watch, drawn by the energy signature, curious about the human who dared to create the impossible